Hi, everybody. We're excited to have you here. We see lots of people joining from around the world. We're going to start in just a second, but just wanted to give you a warning that if you are using the Zoom desktop version, you may see a pop-up during the video telling you to upgrade your version of Zoom. You can do that pretty easily and quickly. If you do miss anything, though, you can always come back to our Yamaha website later to download and view the video at a later time. But in the meantime, we'll get started with our video, and at the end, we'll answer some questions for you about QLab and your Yamaha consoles. So please enjoy the video, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Hi, everybody. I'm Brent with Yamaha Pro Audio in Japan. We're excited to have you join us for this webinar where we will be exploring some new ways to use your console with show control software. We wanted to share some of these capabilities with you as many of you are currently looking to feed your brains with new skills. So today we wanted to take you through a step-by-step guide on how to remotely control your CL, QL, or TF consoles using QLab and Python scripts running on Mac. We'll talk you through what is QLab, where to get a setup guide and sample files, and how to start designing cues for your own show. We'll also be having a Q&A session at the end where our technical staff will be able to answer your questions live about the QLab and Yamaha consoles. So feel free to write in your questions at any time during this video, and we look forward to answering those questions at the end. So let's get started. So first of all, what is QLab? QLab is made by a company called Figure 53. It is a live show control software for not only theater, dance, and installations, but also live PA applications. So you can find engineers from Broadway and the West End to venues around the world using QLab to run their shows. QLab runs on Mac and controls audio, video, and also lighting, hardware, and software from a single workspace. The basic version of QLab is free on the website qlab.app and provides a powerful audio playback environment in stereo. But keep in mind that if you want to have more outputs or send a variety of cues, you'll need to purchase or rent one of the full versions. To show you how some of these features work, including programming your shows with Python, we'll be using the paid version of QLab for audio in this video. So if you do want to test out QLab to see if it's something that might improve your audio engineering skills, QLab also provides a 20-minute demo mode that you can use to explore all of its features. Before we released Python script templates, QLab was simply a way to trigger audio effects or sounds via MIDI while running an audio console with your other hand. Now though, with a little preparation, you can fire your audio triggers and scene changes all from within QLab. You can also send cues to multiple consoles to ensure that your changes happen in sync. We'll go over some of the basic functions with you today, but encourage you to explore the other features that might help your future productions. Since this video is focused on the non-programmer general sound operator type of users, we'll look at changing scenes, setting fader levels, turning channels on and off, and adjusting pan positions. A QLab setup guide can be found on your local Yamaha site by simply going to any of the CL, QL, or TF pages, selecting the Self-Training tab at the top, and scrolling down to find the QLab Setup Guide toward the bottom of the page, which you can use to set up your system at your own pace. You'll also want to go to the Downloads page to get the Python script template, and after unzipping it, you'll find a couple of script and document files as well as a folder named TFX QLab, which is an independent package exclusively created for the TF consoles. So for our system, we have a CL1, a TF1, and a Mac to run QLab. If you are connecting only one console to the Mac, you can directly connect the Mac to your console's network port without a switch. But since we're using two consoles today, we'll connect them with our SWP1 8-port switch. Make sure that the firmware version for the TF is version 2.0 or later, and 3.11 or later for the CL or QL. Also, Python should be version 2.7 or later, which you can check by simply opening Terminal on your Mac and typing Python to see the version number. After we've connected our Mac and our console's network ports, we need to set up our IP addresses. On our CL, under Setup, Network, and the For Mixer Control tab, we'll set the IP address to 192.168.0.129 and the subnet mask to 255.255.255.0. Our TF will be set to 192.168.0.128 with the same subnet. And the MAC will be set to 192.168.0.100, also with the same subnet. With all that set up, let's take a look at QLab with TF. Now, most of us probably aren't computer programmers that are familiar with programming script files, but don't worry, we can open and view these files in any text editor. So let's open up the Python script template folder, and inside we'll see a few files that have the extension .py. These are our pre-written Python script files that, with a few edits, can be used quickly and easily. Click on any of the .py files to open it up. Here, we want to make sure that the host IP address matches the console we'll be using the script with. In this case, 128 if we're using the script with a TF, or 129 if we're using the script with a CL or QL. Once you've matched the IP address, you can simply close the text editor. Go into the TFX QLab folder and click to open the QLab_file.qlab4 file to automatically open the QLab program you've installed. In QLab, you'll see 4 queues loaded in the queue list section. In the lower half of the window are 3 tabs. Select the Script tab to view the already prepared Python script. We need to make sure that the file path name following the do shell script Python in the script is correct. Simply moving the TFX QLab folder onto your desktop will make it match with the pre-written code. But if you're somebody who likes a little more of a challenge, the squiggly tilde at the beginning of the path name represents the root directory of the current user. So you can either type in the path name if you know it, or the easiest way to make sure you have the correct path name is to right-click the recallb1.py file in the TFX QLab folder, hold down the Alt key, and select Copy recallb1.py as path name. Then highlight the path name in the script and press Command V to paste the path name. Remember not to alter any other parts of the code, including the quotation marks. Then click the Compile Script button at the bottom, and this button will help to warn you if you have any errors in your script. But this is also automatically done each time the large Go button is pressed, so it's not a problem if you forget. Continue and repeat the same process for queues 2, 3, and 4 using the related files and pathways in the TFX QLab folder. Make sure to also load the included tf_console file.tff onto the TF console. This contains data for both scene A and scene B that we'll be using. There's not much data in them though, as they're just samples. Once it's loaded onto the TF and all the scripts are correctly configured, when you press Go to trigger each queue on QLab, it will send out a command to the TF, and the TF will execute the scripted queues. For example, the first queue recalls scene B01 with all the faders up. The second queue recalls scene A00, all faders down. The third one changes the first 6 channel faders independently, and the last queue again brings it back to A00 with all the faders down. As you can see, it makes scene changes really easy. Lastly, we'll control the CL from QLab. For this, let's go to File and select New Workspace. We're now going to add some script queues. So in the toolbar, click the far right icon to add a new script. You'll again see the 3 tabs along the bottom, where you can just go to the Script tab. Here, we can add in the file path name like we did before. If you remember from the TF scripts, we can type in do shell script, double quotes, file path name, unquotes. But if you don't remember that or don't want to type all that in, we have all these commands written out in section 8 of the QLab Setup Guide that you can just copy and paste. The Setup Guide also outlines how to customize your own command scripts. The command script can be customized to adjust individual fader and pan levels, turn channels on and off, and recall scenes. You can find the list of commands and their associated code in the command_list.pdf file in the Python script template folder. Each of the command scripts will allow you to enter a specific channel and value for the pan, fader level, or on-off functions. To add a command script to any queue, just add the command.py script from the Python script template folder into any queue you've created and add one of the commands from the command_list PDF onto the end of that code. Once you have the full line of code written, we can simply change the X without the brackets to 5 for channel 5 and Y without brackets to 500 for +5 dB. You can see the comparable fader decibel values in the QLab Setup Guide. This process works the same for the other commands as well. So keep in mind that for recalling scenes though, there are different codes for the CL, QL consoles and the TF console. Make sure that you check which scene recall code you're copying. Also, regarding the recall scripts, you'll see that there are 2 different recall scripts in the Python script template folder, recall.py and recall A or B.py. The recall A and B files are exclusively for the TF consoles since they relate to the TF's scene A and B. The regular recall.py file is for the CL and QL consoles. All of these files are used for executing scene recalls. There are more examples in the setup guide that you can use to explore what you can do with QLab, so we definitely encourage you to check them out to see if it's something that might improve your audio engineering capabilities or make running a show easier for you. I hope this gives you a good understanding of how QLab controls our consoles, and as you can imagine, that is just a brief introduction, and there's a whole lot more that you can program and do with these types of software. Now we'll go to our studio where our technical staff can answer your questions, so please feel free to write in any questions you have about how you can use QLab to operate our Yamaha consoles. Welcome back. Hope you learned a lot from that video. We know there was a lot of information in there, so we're going to give you some time to ask questions about QLab and Yamaha consoles. But first, as you know, I'm Brent from the video, and here we have...
I'm Aiko from Yamaha Corporation.
Okay. So she also works with our as one of our technicians here. Very knowledgeable person. So we look forward to answering your questions. We want to focus on questions that are related to the connection between Yamaha consoles and QLab. So we'll try to focus on those questions and answer as many other questions as we can. So feel free to ask any questions that you guys like. So first up, one of our first questions looks like, is Python the only language that can be used with QLab? So is Python the only language that can be used with QLab? Actually, QLab uses AppleScript to trigger the cues. When it gets to one of the Yamaha consoles, we're actually using Python at that point. So we chose Python because Python runs natively on Macintosh, as well as QLab is a Macintosh program, so it actually kind of worked out to be one of the better languages to use with QLab and Yamaha consoles. So that's why we originally chose it. But if you'd like to try other languages, since it's simply just a command language, you can try them, but we haven't tested those out to see.
But since we prepared the template with the Python script, it is easy to communicate between QLab and Yamaha products. So please try to use it.
Yeah, so we've also given you the templates, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for you to use.
Yep.
Good. So let's take another look. Where is the link for the scripts?
Okay.
So
let me show how to get to the script. And the script means the template.
So I believe that we're talking about the script files, the Python files, whether it's the recall file or the command.py file. Those are actually all located on our website. So as we said in the video, if you go on to
Let me show my laptop. Can you switch the, can Carson-san switch the...
Yep. So we'll change over to the website in just a second. But if you go on to any of the CL, QL, or TF websites, at the on that page, if you go to the download section.
So this is Yamaha Pro Audio web page.
Sorry, yeah.
Then go to the mixers first. And for example, go to the sales. Go to the downloads tab here.
So when you click on downloads, it should take you to the bottom.
Go to the bottom.
And we're looking for the Python script.
Other download. Okay.
Yes, other download. A little bit further.
This one.
So it'll be the very last section.
Yep. This is the template. And also going to the self-training tab here. Then go down here. You can see the QLab setup guide for CLQL TF3s.
So we made it easy. It's the top document there on the left. So if you download the script, Python script files from the other download section, that gives you all of those scripts, both the CL and QL type, as well as the TF type. And this setup guide will also give you all the commands written out for you at that time. That's good. So you can check those out on our Yamaha website. Good. Let's go on to the next video, or next question, actually.
Next video.
Next video. Sorry. So next question, is the video going to be uploaded somewhere? See, video.
Because of this, okay.
Yeah, so this video will actually be uploaded to Yamaha's website a little bit later, so keep watch for that on Yamaha's site. So yeah, you can review, as I know there was a lot of information quite quickly in the previous video, so you can use that for your own study at home. Good. Another question, can this be done over MIDI?
Yes, yep. This video explained how to control the console from QLab by Python script, but also our consoles can be controlled by over MIDI. So it is also possible.
Yeah, so there are connections on the back of the CL and QL to do other MIDI type commands. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Next one, you want to pick that? Is that okay?
Okay.
So Python 2.7 and later includes version 3, I guess. Yeah, so anything version 2.0 or later would include version 3, I'm not sure how far Python goes up now so far, but, and can I send commands without QLab? It's kind of a broad question. There are many different commands that you could send. You could possibly use other types of MSC or was that show control software? Show control software. We have been using QLab since of the tight integration with Python, but you could look into other types of software, but we don't have any.
So this is the Python template is created for controlling our mixers from QLabs, but also this is Python script, so you can write the script like the original one to control the console from the laptop as well.
Yes. Good. All right. Okay, let's take a look at another question. So, hello, how many scripts should we send or can we send in a single queue? And is there a limit to the transfer and receive? How many scripts can we send in a single queue? I don't know if QLab has a limitation on that.
So as our Python script point of view, we can send several queues at the same time. But when we send many queues at the same time, the command was how can I say, fired sequentially.
So in order, so if you have 20 or 30 or however many queues, it would be firing from Q1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So you might be able to send one single queue with 20 commands in it, or 20 scripts in it, but they will fire in sequence. So you need to make that adjustment in QLab and set that up so that you are assured that it's firing in the way that you want.
Yeah, and one of the recommendations is to include such kind of change in one scene. It means to send the command of scene change many things at the same time, which is also good to, how can I say, to send the command at the same time.
So there will be a difference in sending a QLab command or QLab queue and sending a console queue, because you can separate the two and just have a single queue do one scene change, but the console will have that information also where it has multiple faders moving with the single scene change all in one single queue. So be careful to keep those separate and be aware that you can use those to your advantage when you're programming your show. That's a good question. Okay, let's look at the next one. So, hi, is there a way to define transition times between scene recalls, maybe per individual faders? Okay, that's 2 levels of question. That's good. Okay, so is there a way to define transitions between scene recall? Transition times between scene recalls. I think you might be asking about time code or time triggers. So can you trigger scene 1 at this time and 30 seconds later or 20 seconds later fire the next scene recall? Yes, that is possible within QLab. We talked about the 2 types.
The QLab has the function of pre-wait and post-wait. So in the QLab, you can set the like transition between one scene to the first scene to the next scene.
So yeah, you would be able to set some timers in there. You have to look into QLab. If you want it to be fired by QLab, you need to look at the timing within QLab on how to send those. And your second part of your question, maybe per individual fader.
Per individual faders means to change the fader levels with the transition time.
With transition times, you can set that up. That might be a little tedious, or you might have to take some extra time in order to make sure that you're setting individual faders. There is the command script that we provide that allows you to set individual faders and individual levels, but you might have to create a lot of extra scripts or a lot of extra lines of code in order to do that. And again, because QLab reads line by line to fire each one of those, you might not get the results that you're looking for. So it's something for you to play around with at home and see if that's something that you can set up that works for your specific show and situation. So, good question. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's look at the next one. Are you thinking and operate in Windows in the future?
We can't answer it.
Unfortunately, we can't answer that because QLab is its own company. It's run by Figure 53, so they are the ones that are actually running QLab in Mac, in the Mac OS. So unfortunately, we don't have that answer for you. Sorry. Okay. Let's look at another one. Is that only for CL, QL, and TF consoles? Can they be used with older ones like the LS9 or M7CL or the newer Rivage? That's a good question. We talked about that a little bit.
So right now we have the template for CL, QL, and TF, and we are considering to create the template for Rivage with the future update.
Okay, so in a future update, we'll be having we'll create a template that can work with a future update that can read Python. So definitely look for that in the future. LS9 and M7CL, I'm not.
So far, we have no plan to create the template for older one. But let's see how
we haven't tested that, unfortunately, on the older consoles. But if you have one and want to try it out, please feel free to try it on your own and send us a message. Good. So next question. What are the console's functions that can be able to control? What kind of functions can we control with this? We've talked about recall scenes, pan, setup fader levels. But can we, for example, modify effects parameters like make a reverb longer or turn on and off compression?
That's a good question.
Interesting question, actually. We haven't experimented with those, and we haven't created the templates for those since we haven't tested them. But if those are functions that you are looking for or interested in, we definitely encourage you and the Yamaha community to let our Yamaha reps, or let our Yamaha staff and dealers, your Yamaha PA dealers, know that you would like that functionality, and they can send those requests up to us, and then we can start to implement some of those requests. So, very good question. I hadn't thought about reverb. That's pretty cool. Okay, good question though. Thanks. Next question: is it possible to set time for fader changes? That's another good question. We've kind of talked about that a little, but setting time for fader changes. Again, if we separate the functions of QLab running cues and scene changes being done on the console, if you want to do like a fader timing, maybe like a 5-second fade during a scene recall, you can do that, but you'd simply trigger the scene recall using QLab, and within the actual scene recall that you're pulling up, you would do all the fader timings in the console. So QLab would trigger the scene, and then the scene information that you have in the console would actually control the fade time for those faders that you want to have adjusted. So I think that.
Yes.
Okay.
So in the scene data, there is the fade time setting. So please set up the fade time in the scene data.
Okay. Next question. So is the Python command set more extended or bigger than the MIDI command set in the Yamaha side? Is the Python command set more extended than the MIDI command set?
Yeah. So the actually parameter is more parameter is available via MIDI, but since we created the template, the Python is easy to implement in the system, like to use as a controller right now. And also for the TF, MIDI is not available, so Python is the one of the choice to control the console.
So yeah, that's true. So with the, while you have a large amount of MIDI commands, it takes a little bit more time to set up and prepare all of those, whereas we have the templates that you can just easily put into QLab and just fire those off. Probably maybe a little bit easier than running MIDI, but depends on what kind of show you're running and what your needs are. So good question though. Next one, is there a way to recall scenes by name? So I don't have to change all the scripts if I insert an additional scene. Oh, that's an interesting question. So if
I don't have to change all scripts if I insert an additional scene.
So I'm not sure if you're currently. No, not that I can think of at the moment. I don't think there's a way to change just the recall scene name so that you can have it more easily adapted for the script. So,
but right now you have to set the scene number. It is the how can I say? The keyword to find from console.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah. So that's a good question. Unfortunately, that's not something we have set up at the moment.
I understood. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, though. Another question: what are the pros and cons of controlling via Python or MIDI? So that seems to come up quite a lot. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely advantages to both sides. It depends on what you're using your console for and what the how you're triggering those things. I mean, MIDI, you have MIDI controllers that can do some of those triggers, but again, it depends on how well versed, how knowledgeable you are with MIDI, how quickly you can set that up, and then also what type of console, since we're mainly focusing on CL and QL consoles for MIDI, whereas TF it doesn't have that capability. But again, if you want a little bit easier method with Python, we have the templates already built for you, so you just need to simply adapt those and put those up. So keep exploring, see what you're using it for, what the application is, and then choose which method is best for you. So, well, good, always a good question. We'll keep exploring that. Good. Another question. So, is it necessary to keep the Python script on a separate network to your Dante network? That's another good question.
It is not necessary to keep the Python script on a separate network to Dante network. So the Dante network and the Python control network could be in the same network, but we recommend to separate these networks for the safer system.
Yeah, a little bit more secure system. One of the things to keep in mind with the network port that is on all of the consoles, the CLQL TF, is that is running on a 100 megabit port, whereas Dante port is running on a 1 gigabit port. So we'd like to keep those separate so that there's not traffic overflow on the network port side, and that your commands are getting through quickly and safely without any interference from the Dante network.
Yeah.
So
and of course we have to we have to be careful about the bandwidth things, and also the setup of the IP address for all the equipment is a bit not tricky, but we have to we have to set the IP address for all equipment in the means in the same subnet IP address should be set up on the all equipment.
Yeah. So make sure that when you have your network set up that all of your devices are within the same subnet. So I believe in the video we used 192.168.0. something. The TF had 128, the CL had 129, our laptop had .100. You can also use two network.
If you combine Dante in the Python script control network, first you have to set the IP address on Dante equipment to same subnet IP address. Means to change the static IP address to set the 192.
192.168.
Sorry.
Wrong number. So to set it within the same subnet.
Yeah, or to use the DHCP server for the Dante equipment to set same subnet.
Right, exactly. Good. Yeah, so very good question though. Very good. That's great. Next question, will there be more options in the future such as modifying effects? So again, the question of do we just have the four options right now, recalling scenes, adjusting faders. We're again looking into other options in the future, but again, contact your Yamaha dealers, Yamaha reps to give suggestions on things that you would like to see implemented, and we'll be happy to take a look at those.
Yeah, thank you for your request.
Yeah. Next one, can we test our Python scripts on the CLQL editor without a mixer? Okay. No, unfortunately, I don't believe you would be able to do that at this time. We have to check with one or two other people, but I don't believe that's possible at the moment. So, good. Another question. So if we send many scripts in one queue, the last one will be executed with some delay? Yes, depending on how long your list of queues are and the speed of your connection, depending on what type of cables you're using, you could potentially see a little bit of a delay. It could be microseconds, milliseconds. It depends on how many queues you're running or how long you want to spend in front of your computer typing in all those different lines of code to create that. So, but yes, there is potential for a slight amount of delay toward the end of that list. So be aware of that. Can we send the script also with Wi-Fi connection?
I think it is.
Yes, you would be able to do that since it's just using IP protocols. It depends on how you are connected, how you're connecting your network, but theoretically it should be possible.
Yeah.
So,
but as a reliability point of view, the wired connection is recommended.
Right. Yes. Usually a lot more secure with having a cable connection, especially for time-sensitive triggers that you're working with. So, good question. Is it possible to control multiple consoles at the same time? I think you know that. So, yes. So that. Yeah, you would be able to control multiple consoles at the same time. So if we, as we had in the video, we had both the TF and the CL consoles running from the same MacBook. We can send triggers out to two consoles at the same time. But again, make sure that you have changed the IP addresses to make sure that the triggers are going to the correct consoles.
And also one thing, if you control the multiple consoles at the same time from one QLab, you have to change a few things on the laptop because the Python script template include the IP address of console. And if you send the command from one laptop to several multiple consoles, you have to set several IP address on each command.
Yes.
And how to do it is maybe easy to see on the laptop. So please switch to the laptop display. So this is Python script template that we provide on the website.
On the website, yeah.
Yeah, and when you open it, we can see several Python template. Mm-hmm. And please create the folder, yeah, additional folder for each console. Like this one is for CL, and the other one for QL. Then, for example, I want to record CL console from QLab. Please copy this record Python script template and put into the CL folder, like this. Then QL as well, like this. And after you prepare these folders, please set the IP address in each Python script template. This IP address for CL, and also this one is right now same, but to change it to the QL console IP address. Then as you explained in the as Brent explained in the video, please copy the path name here. Press option. Mm-hmm. Then paste onto the QLab. Yeah. Then it works. So for each command to set the different path to control each consoles.
So, and you can also create just a text file that you have all four of those commands, either the scene recall or the fader adjustments. You could just put each one of those in the file folder so that you can copy the do shell script Python code for each one of those more easily, just making the process a little bit simpler for you. So just for the QL one, just copy the file path name and the code language for those four commands. Then do it the same thing within the CL folder. That way you're basically copying and pasting each one. You don't have to retype each time that you change to a new queue or a new scene or a new command. So making life a little bit easier for you. So that's a great question. Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Another question. So is it possible to turn on or turn off the console via the script?
Console.
The console, no, you wouldn't be able to turn off the console. That's an interesting, probably
interesting.
That's a major safety issue for people. So you wouldn't be able to turn them off the console itself, but there is a function for turning on or off channels. So you can certainly have the code turn off a channel or turn on a channel within. You can do that with scene changes or just within a queue from QLab. But no, there's no
way
plan to turning off the console at the moment. So good question though. So
thank you.
We'll keep that in mind for our security team. Good. Another question. I usually use my MacBook connected to the QL with Dante using DVS, a Dante virtual sound card, in order to send music or VOG announcements, voice of God announcements, among other things. So can QLab connect with the consoles via the Dante port on the console, or it must be plugged into the control Ethernet port? So, okay, so can QLab be controlled within Dante, or must it be connected to the network port?
So technically it's possible. So from the same Ethernet port, we can, transmit and receive the data of Dante and also control But in this case, you have to, as I explained, you have to set the IP address of all the equipment in the same subnet. So, which is a little, how can I say?
More complicated.
Yeah. So if you can create such kind of system, it's possible, but with the link local address, which is the default setting of our Dante products, it's not, it will not work. So please set the IP address to use both of Dante and Python script control on the same Ethernet port.
Yeah. Good. So next question, I think kind of relates. Can Python script and Dante be on the same switch, so we can have both on our computer? Yes, and I believe you would be able to use them on the same switch. That wouldn't be a problem. So
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Next one. So apart from scene recalls, oh, that one went away. I think you got it. There we go. We'll come back to that one. So apart from, can't see that. We lost the question.
Yeah.
Hang on just a second. So
Yeah, the questions are really interesting.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
These are really good. So in the, how to sync tap time not use, oh, okay. The future.
So maybe, so for today's webinar, it is actually first time to broadcast from Yamaha Corporation here in Japan, but we are glad to receive such a huge number of
Yeah,
questions.
we're very happy, very surprised with the response from you. We've been really blown over by how many questions you've had. The depth of the questions have been great. We're really happy to see how in depth you're getting in with these consoles and with QLab, and we're continuing to look forward to continuing to develop more and more products that kind of fit your needs. So we continue to encourage you to talk to your Yamaha reps, your local PA dealers, and continue to ask them for more assistance with those types of things. But if there are no more questions, any more questions that we have lingering? Okay. So we're going to wrap up today. We had a lot of questions from you guys. Thank you very much for participating. We'll continue to work on future webinars and hopefully have some new ideas for you to use while you are currently having taken a little respite from your activities. Hopefully you are all doing well, having a happy and healthy life at the moment, and we look forward to seeing you guys again in the future. Please keep in contact and send us any thoughts or ideas that you have. We look forward to working with you again in the future. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for attending.
Yeah.